لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. If you remember last time we dwelled a lot on the concept of family as it comes in the Arabic language in two words. Usra means from asara, to captivate someone, right? And family, which in Arabic is aila, which means to provide for and take care of someone, to sponsor someone. We explained those in details. I don't know if you remember or you were not there at all. Do you have anything on this?
I forgot, but it's good.
So the word family we use in English has two words in Arabic. One of them is usra, and the root word for usra is asara. Asara is a past tense verb that could mean one of two things: either to take as a captive or as a hostage, that is asara, or to captivate. You see, it's a huge two opposite meanings almost, but they come from the same root word. To take as captive is to hold somebody against their will. To take as a hostage is the same. So war captives are held against their will, right? But in the word asara, which means captivate, is to be willfully wanting to be in that gathering. You are captivated by what that gathering offers. For example, the Arabs use the word asarahu bikaramih. He captivated him with his generosity. Or she captivated him with her sweet words. Okay? So captivation is different from taking a person a captive or a hostage or a POW. So usra is from the other meaning, that is to captivate. It presumes that everyone in the family is happily a captive of the love, the compassion, and the care inside the family. So in the family context, everyone is lovingly submitting to this kind of captivity. Children are captivated by the care of their parents. Parents are activated by the love of their children and their presence in their life, and children as a gift. And husbands and wives are captivated to each other and happily living together. They are not tied, and that's why when one of the two sides of the spouses, the husband or the wife, says, "I'm just staying for the kids," that means what? He's turning from a lovingly captivated person into a captive, a hostage. Huh?
50% of women.
Only 50?
Maybe 90.
No, we hope not, inshallah. So this is the concept of family in one Arabic word. What is the other Arabic word, and what does it mean, and where does it come from? The other Arabic word is aila. Aila from ala, ya'ulu. From it comes the word iyal, which are the kids. What does it mean to be ail? Ail means you are a sponsor. You are a provider. You are a caretaker. You are the attendant. You attend to the needs and the wants and the desires of the family, all the members of the family. So you become ail. The Quran uses this word. وَوَجَدَكَ عَائِلًا فَأَغْنَى. عَائِلًا means you have family. You have people that you are responsible for. فَأَغْنَى. He provided for you. Okay? So عائلة is normally mistaken only for children, because children are called عيال. So the word in its popular concept seems to apply in the heads of many people only on children. Children are the only عيال, right? But this concept is broader than this. Every member in the family, men, women, father, mother, and children, are all interdependent on each other. Without children, parents are not going to be happy. Right? Without parents, children may not be able to do a lot of things. Right? Without a husband, the wife will be having a lot of hard time to struggle with the kids on her own. Without the wife, the husband can do nothing. So what are we interdependent on each other for? The husband is dependent on his family to provide him the moral, psychological support, the stability, the sense of belonging, and the sense of union, that he has a safety network. Okay? The mother or the wife is also dependent on her husband for things that are his responsibility. The husband is dependent on the wife for things that are her responsibility. So we mutually are dependent on each other as husband and wives. What about the children? They are really dependent. Yeah, when they are young. But when the parents are too old to take care of themselves, they become dependent on their children. So you see how much one word in the Arabic language can capture so much principles, ideas, and thoughts behind a single word. Okay, any question on this? So let us move on to the introduction into the crux of this series. This series is based on a set of terminologies used in the Quran in the context of explaining how the relationship of a man and a woman and a family should be like. So the first concept, which I regard as a pillar, a real pillar for happy family, is the concept of taqwa. Fearing Allah, observing Allah, appreciating Allah, appreciating His gifts and blessings, appreciating the responsibility that we have before Him, appreciating the fact that He's watching us and watching over us. Taqwa in its essence means shield, something like, for example, when you put on winter clothing in the cold, the winter clothing is a shield. It protects you from the cold. What you're doing is you're practicing taqwa. You are protecting yourself from the cold using a coat or something, right? So taqwa is to set a shield between you and the displeasure of Allah. So it is not literally the fear that we fear Allah because He is unpredictable. No, He is very predictable. One of the major difficulties that Muslims have with the concept of translating the word taqwa into fear is the concept of fear itself, because you don't like whom you fear normally. But this one you fear to displease because you like him. It is like when you love someone so much, you take all precautions not to displease them, because you want and need their acceptance, right? And that's why we succeed very much in the period of engagement and we fail in the aftermath of marriage, because during the engagement we want to win the lottery. Every side wants to win, right? How do they win? They do everything in their power to convince the other side that I'm the most fit spouse. How do they do this? Through a process that the Quran defines as mawaddah. We'll explain it later on, right? But I'm trying to explain the concept of taqwa. So what do? Is they avoid anything that may create displeasure, right? Or arouse suspicions or lack of, cordial relationship. So what do? They become very sensitive. They think 10 times and calculate 100 times and consult 10 people before they make a statement, right? That's why we succeed in engagement, but we fail in marriage. Because in engagement, we exercise taqwa, but not for a spiritual reason, for material reason, unfortunately. Okay? But Allah will hold our feet to the fire. If you could exercise that very sensitive, precautious approach for 3 months or 6 months or a year or more or less, right? Allah wants you to recognize one thing, that what you say about yourself after marriage is false. Most of us after marriage say, that's who I am and he or she have to accept me, right? But during the engagement, you did not succumb to this. You got your other self out of the box, right? You got the better side of yourself out and you hid the other side, right? Whether it is for deception or for training, it's a different issue. But Allah will hold our feet to the fire, because if you were able to do this before the marriage, why don't you do it after the marriage? Why? Because before the marriage, we have the lottery to win. After the marriage, we have the money of the lottery to spend. So we squander our gain. It is like a businessman who has been very successful in the first 6 months. He got all the customers in the neighborhood by goodwill, by gifts to their kids, by extra stuff, by every means possible. So he made $1 million in the first few months. Then he says, do you know what? There are some customers I want to get rid of, right? And he decides to treat them differently, right? So we know in our heart of hearts, when I want to gain your acceptance, I treat you nicely. When I don't care, I treat you in any other way. I just wanted this clarity to be too obvious for us to ignore, that we have the capacity, if we have the will, to fix our marriages, to deal with any situation. Yes.
What do you do when one of the parties is not committed to what he had in the beginning, or one of them is committed? That's where the problem starts.
One was committed in the beginning,
And he's still committed,
but the other one was not committed.
yeah.
Well, commitment is something that is difficult to measure before you get married. Because before marriage, very little responsibility except nice words, right? So how do you measure somebody's commitment before there is a contract? There is no measurement. So what do you mean by no commitment from the beginning?
Everybody before marriage is trying to show the best of themselves.
Right, because they want to win.
Yeah, but mostly like one of the parties said the same, he's having a good intention, he's showing the best, during the process of
Yes.
But the other party is, khalas, she wants something new. He wants something new.
So they want something new. What do you mean?
Mostly, if I'm talking about men, mostly what happens is that in the beginning, they're like both of them are showing the best of themselves.
Right.
But during the process of marriage, let's say the woman is still showing the best of herself, but the man is tired of her.
That is judgmental on your part. You're saying the same thing I am saying, but
we see that in our lives. We see our sisters who are suffering with that.
You're saying the same thing I'm saying, but you're just exonerating women from ever doing what bad men do. And I tend not to agree very much, because I have seen both sides. I have seen both sides. The change of heart or mind or attitude is prevalent among us humans. because there is something that governs all of us as humans, or at least the majority of us. That is ما تملكه اليد تزهده النفس. The thing that you are in control of and you already won and it is in your hand, right? It loses value. It loses value. It depreciates. But the thing you don't have has a very great value. So the wife that I am not married to, very beautiful, very elegant, very this, right? But the one I have, no. My eyes are hooked on what is wrong that I have seen or have imagined or happened. Yes.
I have a question about taqwa. You said that it's a shield between you and the displeasure of Allah.
Yes. To shield you from causing displeasure. Yes.
And what about the fear of displeasing our parents? How do you instill in children the fear of displeasing Allah? So you can work with them as children. They may fear disobeying their parents, but how do you transfer that to a fear of displeasing Allah?
Yeah, very good question. Very good question. To train our children to know Allah and to connect with Allah, even though they cannot see Him, takes a lot of training and a lot of explanations. So children are not going to take it from a sentence or two. So you have to bring Allah, who is unseen and unseeable, at least in this life, into the level of a player, if you will, with respect to His Majesty, of course, but into an actor, an active, engaging God in their life. Children appreciate much anyone who gives them anything that is of value in their eyes, right? So if we could explain, and it's easy to do that, to the kids, that everything we get is from Allah. The money mom gives you is from Allah, right? The food is from Allah. It is He who grows it. It is we who cultivate the land, and it is you who are going to enjoy it. And that's why before we eat, we say in the name of Allah, because everything is made in His name. Right? So when we start to inject Allah's name in every aspect, not only as a practice, but as a concept, so that the kids would live this absent idea, if you will, and turn it into reality. And you see children who are engaged in this fashion, they always ask very nice questions. Mama, if I close the door and turn the light off, would God still see me? Because they are trained that God has super power, not just power, right? So the more we talk with our children about connecting with Allah and turn that unseeable concept into something that they can live with. You can talk to Allah, but can He talk back to me? When do I know that He's talking to me? So they will come to you with very nice questions that will inspire you to dig knowledge for them, to be able to talk to them. Yes, God talks to us in varieties of ways. Not in the form of revelation as He talks to prophets, but He talks to us through His blessings, through His intervention. Do you remember when you tripped on the stairs, right? And nothing happened to you. Who saved you? Right? Do you remember the food we had last night and you liked it so much? Did you ask, what does it take for the food to come to the table? Then you inspired the child to ask, what does it take for the food? Where does it come from? Is it macaroni and it is manufactured? Or is it rice and it is planted? It's grown. So if we explore with the kids nature around us and take them to places and show them the works of Allah, they would love and be very, very excited, and will keep asking you, when can we see Allah? When do we see Allah? Did the Prophet see Allah? Did anyone see Allah before? I want to see Allah, because Allah now has grown into living God in their head and in their heart. Very good question. So I am not going to cover everything about taqwa. I just wanted to introduce the concept, okay, and its application in our daily life. So the second pillar here is a sakan. You know, sakan could be translated into residence. Where you reside, the Arab call it sakan. My residence, the Arabs call it my sakan, where I live. So what distinguishes sakan, and what does it mean for a husband to be sakan for his wife and a wife to be sakan to her husband? It is because in your private home you have privacy. That's the most people enjoy about being at home. Now I can talk my head, no penalty, and hopefully this is the case, right? I can speak what I think without any fearing of repercussions. I can sit in my full clothing or whatever way that I am comfortable with, because I am in my private home, right? So what does private home give you? It gives you both the ultimate privacy you could have on earth and the ultimate freedom you could have on earth. Where homes turn into cages and prisons, it is not that it's the nature of what they are, it is because we turn them into what they turn to be. When we act like guards of prison, we turn the place into a prison-like camp. When we act like angels, we turn it into paradise. So it depends. But the residence place where you live is very important, because that's where you sleep. That's where you have safety, security, peace, tranquility, freedom, and privacy. None of that you could secure outside without effort. But at home, you normally get it. You don't have to ask for it. You don't tell your husband, can you stand guard? I want to sleep for 2 hours. Don't do that. You know that it is safe. So you go to sleep, you go to bed. Okay? So why does the Quran use the word sakan? We will explain, but I wanted to explain the concept. Sakan, where you settle, you are content, you are happy, you are comfortable, and you feel secure and safe. That's the concept of sakan, and it's a pillar in the marriage. The Quran talks about a sakan in 2 verbs. One is لِيَسْكُنَ إِلَيْهَا, for him to be content with her and to settle down with her in peace and tranquility. And that makes a wrong prevalent concept, not the text of the ayah, but misunderstanding the text. What is the misconception? The misconception is some men believe that women have no function because they are created for men, for a man to settle with her. So she seems to be, if you take the text literally and not read the rest of the text, that she is created for him to have peace and tranquility. Okay? But in Surah Al-Rum, it says to women and men, لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, for you both to live together in tranquility and peace. So where does a man get his peace and tranquility? From the woman. Can a woman give peace and tranquility if she doesn't have it? No, she can't. Where does she get her peace and tranquility? From her husband. If he doesn't have it, how could he give it? So the Quran captures all of this in one word, so that you together give each other peace and tranquility and you individually live in peace and tranquility. Okay. Then comes affection and mercy as the... Oh, I skipped one. I skipped the second one. Okay. وعاشرهن بالمعروف. I will come back to it. I skipped this one, this line here. But I'm here, mawadda and rahmah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the same verse that He says to dwell with each other in peace and tranquility, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. And He has put between the two of you compassion, affection, and mercy. Okay. There is no English word, and I want someone to help me with this, for the word mawadda. So I am going to explain it, and I challenge all of you to help me get a better translation. The word mawadda is something we use a lot, and the example I gave a few minutes ago, that when a woman and a man are engaged, they practice mawadda every time they meet. What is mawadda? Mawadda is to seek to earn somebody's love and appreciation by doing the best they can appreciate. So you do your level best so that someone would love you. It's called mawadda, which means to do whatever it takes to earn somebody's love. If somebody could capture this for me in one word, I would appreciate it. So it's not really affection as it's written, and it's not compassion. So, no, English is quite limited. It doesn't help me much. I seek any word and I struggle to come up. And typically I get away with a sentence, but for word, it's very difficult. So some translation use affection, some translation use compassion, some translation use compassionate love. But the word I find very close is ihsan, which is excellence. But ihsan is a quality adjective, but mawadda is a process.
I thought ihsan was perfection.
Yes. Ihsan is excellence. Yes. Yes.
Isn't it mawadda to accept the person the way it is with no change? Like just to accept the person the way it is.
If I accept everybody the way they are,
I'm talking about husband.
I understand. If we accept each other as we are, we would have relinquished our responsibility to help each other improve. And that's part of the marriage. Part of marriage is the husband helps the wife improve in every way possible, and the wife helps him improve. Okay? So if we, yes.
This isn't quite the same, but in English, do you know the word ingratiate?
Ingratiate
To win
somebody over.
by
Yes.
pleasing them.
Yes. So it's called what?
Ingratiate?
Ingratiate?
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't have the depth of mawadda.
Yes.
And when you initially meet someone, you try to ingratiate yourself.
Which means to create appreciation. Right? To ingrain appreciation. Yes. Yeah, that would be a good word to use. Ingratiate. Okay, so we will explain the mawadda and the rahmah, mercy and ingratiation, right? Then the Quran uses the word hunna libasun lakum. They are garment unto you, and you are garment unto them. Okay? What does, see, we spoke about sakan, we spoke about now garment, right? And these are things that families use every day, right? And the Quran is using them to describe how the relationship between a husband and wife should be like. So as a garment, you do not only cover, you cover, you protect, you give comfort, you give freedom, and you give dignity, and you give beauty. So the word garment is so loaded, and it points to a lot of things that we could do to turn the dynamics in the family into something different than the daily approach we are familiar with. Okay, I will explain this also later on. Mutual acceptance and mutual consultation. These are used in the Quran. The word consultation in the context of family is mentioned once in the Quran. But the word shura, the word shawir is mentioned in the context of community affairs. So shura is a pervasive concept and process in managing any institution, whether it is the family, the school, the masjid, everything, or the nation. But there is this concept with which family starts, which is taradi, mutual acceptance. It goes to the root word radiya, which is to accept, to be satisfied, right? So it includes acceptance and satisfaction. And marriage cannot be conducted between two people unless both of them accept. If one of them doesn't accept, the marriage contract is null and void. Okay? Something that starts with acceptance, right? I want you to pay attention to this. Something that's based and built on acceptance, could it continue without continuous acceptance? Let me give you a physical example. Let us deal with a building or construction as if it is something living, right? So you give a certain amount of concrete, right, as a foundation for a building. Let us say it agrees to carry 5-story building, right? And it's happily doing the job, right? If the foundation decides to crack, would this building stand? Let us say if the owner of the building put 2 more floors, right, made it 7-story building, would the foundation continue to accept this? So if this is the physical matter, what about our souls, which is very fragile? So Allah in His Majesty, who can order us to do anything, He tells us that He does not burden a soul with something it cannot carry. He could order us to do anything, but He, out of mercy and out of knowledge and wisdom about His creation, He took it upon Himself that Allah does not load a soul with something it cannot carry. The Prophet ﷺ, talking about servants who are purchased and sold, right? He said, these are your brothers that Allah has put under your hand, which means before your hand does something, they go and do it for you, right? فَمَنْ كَانَ أَخُوهُ تَحْتَ يَدِهِ. Anyone who has a brother or someone under his hand, which means to serve him, Let him feed him from what he eats. Let him clothe him from that which he clothes himself. Let him not insult. Let him not slam his face. Let him not indignify. And do not charge them with what they cannot do. And if you do, you help them. Now, move this from the context of a master-servant relation into a husband-wife relation. Some wives want to ask their husbands things they cannot do. Some husbands ask their wives things they cannot do. That creates a lot of friction, clashes, and fights. Unnecessary. Unnecessary. We need to respect each other's capacity, each other's threshold of pain, each other's ability to deal with what you want them to deal with. Should I give some examples? No, you have examples. You have examples. When the wife, for example, is at home caring for kids 24/7, 7 days a week, right? And she tells her husband, please, give me a couple of hours in the weekend because I want to just go out and smell the fresh air like you do for 5 days. Oh, I'm not available, I'm sorry. These are your kids, these are your responsibility. So they put their selfishness on a crutch of that this is her responsibility. The crutch is broken, the excuse is false, but they still live with it and they are very happy and comfortable. Because nobody told them, you cannot load your wife more than what she can carry. The mercy of Islam is unknown to many of us because we focus on what we want or what we think we need more than we give of attention to what others around us are in need for. So it is our selfish approach that makes things difficult. And this is when we turn from a gift into a test. And instead of the spouse being a gift to his or her spouse, they turn into a trouble-making people in their life, a source of pain. Imagine if all Muslims would study these concepts at young age. Will we have the family issues we have to deal with today? Respecting others, using mawadda even if you don't need something, right? Being respectful even when you're insulted. Not turning an eye for an eye and turning everybody blind, turning insult with respect, with forgiveness. If we teach those values for our kids when they are young, they will find it natural in their life. Yes.
Yeah, I know there is a book called The Book of Virtues. It's an English book where you can read it for the kids.
I know, it's written by William Bennett.
Yeah, but I was wondering if there's a book for kids who can teach them actually to recite.
Hawa could borrow because she has the skills and the capacity. You could get William Bennett's book and turn the values in it into stories. She has the skills to do this on a dime. So I'm charging you. I'm charging you with this.
And she has the customers over there.
Huh?
The customers are over there.
Yeah, you have customers here. And to make it easy for you, I want you to record it voice over before you write it down,
Okay, that's a good idea.
because it's easier to record than write down. Yes.
Mine comes from Somalia. My mothers, they have children 7 days and they don't complain at all. They are very happy at all to raise a child. When my father come to the house, we are not allowed to running and say that we need this, we need this. She said that wait until he rests. Then she talked to him out of it, and then whatever we wanted, my mom, she would give it to me. Instead, I would go and bother my dad. He's like a king. And here I'm hearing that 7 days the father working, or 5 days, and the mother, she need to go outside to.
It is because in Somalia, it is a different society and environment and atmosphere than here. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib used to say, treat your kids with care and don't assume that what worked for you when you were a child will work for them when they are children. Why? He says because they are created at a different time and maybe in a different environment. So expectations are shaped by partly the home, partly the religion and the faith and the values inculcated in the children, and partly by the home culture. All of this plays together to shape the child's imagination. Okay, very good questions. So the taradi and the tashawur, the mutual acceptance and the mutual satisfaction, must be coupled with mutual consultation, because if you're my wife and I come and say, let's pack, we're leaving. Where are we going? I told you we're leaving. Let's go, pack. What am I doing?
Pack and go.
What I am doing. No. If you do this, I will take you back to Somalia. No, I mean to pack the bags so that we can go, for example, to a conference in out of town. Okay? Imagine if I give her the news in this fashion. The first piece, just pack. I told you to pack. And then in few minutes, oh, where are we going? Where are you? And I say, okay, we're going to a conference. Oh, the kids are jumpy and everybody's happy, right? You should have told me from the beginning, right? So instead of treating her as a partner, I am treating her as a servant. The language is sending the wrong message. It shows disregard for the basics of what a family is about. Allah calls the husband zawj, He called the wife zawj. Zawj. In English, a spouse. Right? So he uses the same word. Allah says in the Quran, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, which means what they have of rights similar to what they owe of duties and responsibilities. Mithl, which means similar. It doesn't say the same. So the woman or the wife has a role as a wife, not as a husband. And the husband has a role as a husband, not as a wife. But if the husband becomes sick, or the wife becomes disabled or unable, they share responsibilities. A husband is in the hospital. He doesn't earn income. The wife works and she spends on everybody, and she should be happy because she is able to be the husband and the wife and Allah has given her the power and the resources to fund her own family instead of begging. So the gratitude has to always come before we complain. And we cannot give gratitude unless our eyes are hooked on the blessings. But if our eyes are hooked on the pain, we will never remember to be grateful to Allah. So it's pain to have your husband sick and unable. It's very painful, right? The kids are never gonna stop eating, clothing, jumping, wanting plays and games. They will never stop. So what do you do as a wife? You say, oh Allah, help me. Oh Allah, I depend only on you. I get my energy from you. I get my provision from you. I never thought that my husband replaces you. I know that you provided us through him. I ask you to provide this family through me now. You're testing him, please don't test me as well. And when Allah doesn't test you in that corner, you should be very, very happy. Why? Because there are families where the husband and the wife are both being tested. Whatever difficulty you're facing, be grateful. Why? Because there is more difficulties that could have come. Some people say, you're talking to me after my husband died? Yes. It could have been death and bankruptcy. If there's something worse than death, yes. Death plus anything else. So even with calamities, we should be grateful to Allah. Yes.
If you give us some advice, how do we keep the ni'mah we have?
By being grateful. The first is to be grateful. And guess what? When you're grateful, you're not only going to keep it, it's going to grow. Allah will grow it for you. Children are a gift. The husband is a gift. The wife is a gift in their own right. Right? And they are all gifts for each other. That's what usra is. Right? When one of them has difficulty or is sick, it pains everybody else. That's what families are for. But it should trigger our love and support, not our sadness and animosity. What can I do now? Where are you? Why don't you do this? All of that is not helpful. So the first step to protect what you get is to keep your eyes on what you get and to keep being grateful for it. Okay, let us go for just one more addition on the mutual consultation and acceptance, which is very important. It is that we should, the mutual acceptance and mutual satisfaction and mutual consultation seem to be like two legs for one body. If one is crippled, the other leg doesn't work. You cannot have mutual satisfaction if you don't have mutual consultation. I consult you when I get an idea, you consult with me when you get an idea. I consult you on a children matter, you consult me on children matter. Then whatever we come up with together, it would lead, if we execute it as we agree, then it will produce mutual satisfaction. So the road to mutual satisfaction is mutual consultation. We know the story of a wife that went to the Prophet ﷺ and she said, I have no complaint whatsoever when it comes to my husband. My husband is a great man. When it comes to whatever, deen, akhlaq, he is good. But then she made a comment. She said, but I am not able to submit to him as a wife. I'm blocked. The Prophet ﷺ didn't ask except questions that had her way. She wants out. So he asked her, what did he give you of dower? She said, a garden, an orchard. So he said, would you give him his garden back? She said, and I will give it even more, because she wanted out. The Prophet ﷺ told the husband, take the garden you gave her as a dower and give her her divorce. The Prophet didn't ask because she didn't complain, he hits me, he doesn't spend on me. She is saying, my soul is blocked, which means he is unable to turn me on to act responsibly like a wife. I can't. So I'm coming to you. The word she actually used, which is an Arab expression of respect, she said, I cannot turn into kufr after Islam. So she compared her lack of submission as a wife to her husband as kufr. The Prophet ﷺ respected her feeling, respected her decision, and he told him to take the garden and give her her freedom. Why am I saying this story? It is because it points to the fact that when satisfaction stops coming about, one of the two sides will not want to continue the relationship. So the only way really to keep this relationship going is to be mutually pleasing to each other. Mutually means that both sides are satisfied, both sides are happy, which means your ability to succeed in your family relation depends on how much satisfied your spouse is, whatever it takes. Okay, I think I will stop with this one here. So we'll go over the taqwa concept that we mentioned in the beginning as the first pillar. Here is the reference for that concept from the Quran. It's ayah number 1 in Surah An-Nisa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuha nas, ittaqu rabbakum, alladhi khalaqakum. O mankind, be dutiful to your Lord, be observant of your Lord, be pleasing to your Lord, the one who created you. Look at the introduction. This is the beginning of Surah Women, An-Nisa. Fear Allah. And here where it says, Ya ayyuhan nas, it talks to men and women alike. Right? But sometimes you mention the whole in the Arabic language and you mean part of it. It is like when you want all of your kids to sit down and be quiet, right? You say, Muhammad, be quiet. Muhammad is the oldest, right? Samih and Ali and Zainab, everybody will go to the corner, right? So you speak to one, but you mean everybody, right? One of them is making a lot of noise, but the rest are quiet. So you say, oh kids, why are you too noisy, everybody here? They know that it's not everybody, but the noisy one knows that you mean him, right? So that's used in the language. Here the ayah says, Ya ayyuhan nas, O mankind, which means when men and women, but actually it is talking specifically to men in particular. And this is a word in the language that means, I mean everybody, but I am directing this to you. I want you to feel the responsibility. How do we know that men are targeted by this? It is from the rest of the text. الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة. the one who created you from one soul, right? From a single soul. And from it, he created its own spouse, right? And he spread about from them multitudes of men and women. And fear Allah, the one you invoke and ask. You invoke his name and you ask for whatever you want. And be protective and respectful of the in-laws. إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ عَلَيْكُمْ رَقِيبًا. Well, the ayah doesn't really show where does it say, I mean you men in particular. And you're right. The ayah talks here fully to men and women. But the second ayah, which is not in front of you, does. I can get it for you. We can read it together. You want? Okay. If you have the Quran, look at ayah number 2, Surah An-Nisa. I can get it here for you. وَآتُوا الْيَتَامَى أَمْوَالَهُمْ. And give the orphans their money. Their money. ولا تتبدلوا الخبيث بالطيب ولا تأكلوا أموالهم إلى أموالكم إنه كان حوبا كبيرا. Then third ayah, فإن خفتم ألا تقسطوا في اليتامى فانكحوا ما طاب لكم من النساء. Here you know in ayah number 3 that these ayat are talking to men and women, but they are specifically addressing men. Normally, when the ayat address humanity, ya ayyuhan nas, nas as people, right? It would be talking to Muslims and non-Muslims alike. And as a result, you will find that those principles and guidance given in those ayat are very fit for Muslims and non-Muslims alike. These ayat are not specific to our faith. All men should treat their women with taqwa of Allah. All women should treat their husbands with taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All men and women should deal with their in-laws with respect and care and love and taqwa, whether they are Muslims or non-Muslims. So, in one unique occasion, at least here, the Quran is not using the word Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe, and then tell them what to do. Here it is talking to the Muslim and the non-Muslim, the men and the women alike. Clear? So what is the highlight in this ayah? At-taqwa. Imagine if we exercise taqwa before we talk. And by the way, taqwa Allah, to be observant of Allah, must produce in the person observance of the rights of everything Allah has created. So I don't slaughter an animal to throw it in the garbage. The Prophet ﷺ tells the armies, and Abu Bakr did the same, don't slaughter an animal except for food. Which means conservation. All of these, what we call environmental movements, and all of these principles are included under one subheading under the concept of taqwa. So taqwa includes working to conserve and to grow and develop what you have, and to offer gratitude for what you got before you ask for what you didn't get yet. If we are observant of each other's rights, then our taqwa of Allah would have made us better people. But unfortunately, some people are very concerned about their prayer, their fasting, but not how to talk to people, not how to treat people, not how to treat trusts, not how to treat even animals or anything, because their prayer didn't teach them what prayer should teach. And those types of people, you will find their prayer mechanical, not spiritual. They can exit from the prayer and go immediately to continue the discussions they had with somebody, not forgetting a word of it, because prayer was an intermittent disruption to their activity. It's a chore. They wanted to get it over with. It's not a source of happiness. It's not a source of pleasure. It's not a source of honor to be allowed to the presence of Allah. So, as I mentioned last time, the fiqh rule, the golden principle in fiqh is الحكم على الشيء فرع عن تصوره. If my perception of something will affect how I treat that thing, like, for example, I use this example more than I should, but it is an example that has worked. So if you visit me in the office and I open the refrigerator and I get a glass, okay, and I pour something red in the cup and I offer it for you, would you question what this is? Normally, would a Muslim in the office of the Imam question a drink the Imam is offering him, even if it looks suspect? Right? Huh? Normally we wouldn't. But take the same thing, the same exact drink is offered to you by the waiter in a restaurant, and it says, this is on the house. Would you take it? Would you ask? Right? You would ask what this is. Right? So, in the office of the Imam, the perception was never, it could never happen. Right? But in the restaurant, suspicion is the rule. So our perception of what is being offered triggered a different behavior because of the context in which we are dealing. Right? Okay. So when your husband calls and you're chatting with a friend, right? Which call would you put on hold? Huh? Right? It depends. It depends. If it depends. If you had a fight with him, you would put him on hold as long, right? If you're waiting for good news, you will put all your friends on hold. Right? It is the same rule. Your perception of what the matter is led you to judge it differently, how to deal with it, right? So a lady is knocking on your door and you thought she is your neighbor or friend. Guess what? She came out to be your mother-in-law. What a surprise, right? And if you expected your mom-in-law and it came to be a friend, your eyes will also roll because you didn't expect her. You're looking for someone else. So your perception leads you. You don't lead your perception. Okay, let me apply this to the context of marriage to make sense of it. If I see my husband as demanding, miserable, not caring, difficult, everything, and he calls, right? Okay, I'm coming, after calling 3-4 times, right? But if I see my husband as a very pleasant person, and he is just the perfect spouse for me, right? He takes care of me, he does, and he calls, the first answer is, yes, honey, I'm coming. So it's a matter of perception. So our perceptions and ideas about each other influences how we actually end up treating each other. This is a fiqhi rule that is used for people to distinguish halal and haram, but this is not the time to explain, because it will be a huge distraction. Okay? But it is very important rule in life. Let us say, I see my husband as a miserable person, and I was talking to the sheikh asking for divorce and everything. But the sheikh told me, listen, you have 2 ways to deal with this. Either that you try to turn him from a miserable person into a pleasant person, or just you throw him away and look for a pleasant person. So how long have you invested with this guy? She invested 5 kids, 15 years, right? So it's past due that you discover that he's miserable, right? So either you live the rest of your life as a hostage because of the kids, or that you decide to help him change. Then, but I cannot make him change. I say, I agree, right? Nobody could make nobody change. But you could try to change the dynamic of the interaction. How? Treat him like a king and see if he would treat you like a queen. Treat him as if he were an angel and see if he will change his views of you. And don't wait for what he does. Wait for Allah to put the pleasure of doing the right thing in your heart. So this is one way to change my perception, to help change my attitude, to help my spouse change his. Because I become like a model. I was angry, we were fighting, he was about to divorce me and all of that, but then I come back home and say, listen, it looks like we've tried this for 15 years and neither one is happy. And we both have one of 2 ways. Either that we change our perceptions about each other so that we treat each other better than the past, or that we throw each other away and live the rest of our life lamenting on this kind of investment. 15, 20 years. So the choice for the wise is clear. Let's move on. The word here is to dwell with them in tranquility and peace and contentment. If the husband is described as a residence, home for the wife, and the wife is home for the husband, it means what? Both sides can lay their pain and suffering and all of their complaints of life on the table in front of each other? Or is it that if one started, the other one should give support? See, if you jump on a pillow, if you jump on a mattress, just imagine, use your physical imagination. Imagine if the mattress is jumping over you. Where are you going to be? Where is the mattress? Which means at the time you are in pain, it is my time to to absorb, to help, to give you comfort. If you started the complaint first, my complaint against your complaint will only add to the pain. They are not going to make it less. So saying, oh, you're not alone, you're not the only one who is doing something, I'm also working 10 hours a day. This is not a response that gives comfort. If you are screaming because you are fed up with the kids, you lost means and ways to get them to listen, it is my time to tell you, take a nap, go read some Quran, I will take care of the kids for the next hour or two, and when you wake up, we can talk. This is how you become second for me. When I am hyper, you calm me down, right? When you're hyper, I calm you down. Then we become compatible. But if we are like the teeth of a gear, right, hitting at each other, something will break very quickly. But if when you want to sleep, I can stay with the kids, and when I want to rest, you stay with the kids, we are creating very flexible, very comfortable, compatible relationship. That's all what it takes. And all what I'm using of examples are just that, examples. Examples. But life has much more ways and needs that we must apply those applications to life to make it better than what it actually is. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here in Surah Al-Rum, ayah 21 is saying, and among His signs is that He has created for you. I want you to pay attention to this word, for you. The actual translation is not wives, it is spouses. I'm using Mohsen Khan translation, the Noble Quran, because it's accessible and it's closer to the proper meaning than other translations. So when Allah says it is a miracle, it's a sign from me that I created for you. So the husband you got and you approved and you agreed and you love to marry is created for you. You make the best or the worst out of it. He's yours. But Allah gave us full picture. He says your spouses and your wealth and your kids can become a test. Right? Actually, they are a test. But the ayah says some from your spouses, some of your resources can be a test. Okay? You could also say that the meaning of the ayah is sometimes your spouses and your wealth and your kids can be a test. All of these translations and meanings are possible. Okay? So he says here, He created for you your spouses or a spouse, right? So when you pick someone, you better watch. You're picking only one person from millions of people, right? So what you choose becomes the spouse that Allah has created for you. People in the Eastern culture, they say, Nasib, it's my lot, right? Did you choose or was it imposed on you? If you chose something, right? This is not something. This is someone who's your equal, your partner, your spouse, your pair, the father of your children or the mother of your children. This is not a car that you want to change. This is the most intimate and most effective relationship you will ever have in your life. It will become more important than any other relationship you've ever had, including your mom and your dad.
Yeah, just have a question because what we say usually is that al-qadaru khayrihi wa sharrihi. The idea that we have is that Allah already choosing that person for you. So is that true or no?
Can you repeat the last part?
And just did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala choose already the husband and the wife, or we choose them?
Allah created him. You chose him.
So Allah has nothing to do with choosing both of them?
He does. He does. He gave you two things: the freedom to choose and the ability to reason, and the knowledge to guide you, and the prophet to follow. So he has everything to do with it, but the ultimate decision and responsibility is yours.
Because, I mean, since I grew up, I always hear like marriage and having babies, like if it's a boy or girl, and the day you're gonna die, that's things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already choose for us. But there's no discussion. That's how we grow up.
Ultimately, everything you do will fall under qadr, but we don't know until after the fact. Right? So I do not choose a girl to marry because Allah told me, this is your girl. Allah doesn't talk to me like that. I choose her because of my reasons.
Sometimes when you are in the process of getting married, for example, you make istikhara, and the purpose of the istikhara is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala show you if that person is good for you or not. So basically, like you have the idea that it's already chosen.
Yeah, but istikhara will be only helpful if you accept your own dua of istikhara before you ask Allah to accept it. No, it is not. Do you know what istikhara is? Istikhara is to relinquish your choice for the choice that Allah has for you. So if I ask Allah to choose for me, and Allah reminded me, oh, there's another person out there that meets my divine guidance, right? But my heart is already, right, attached with that girl, right? And I'm making istikhara, I end up making a mechanical istikhara that is not even acceptable for me, right? So when Allah chooses for me, I'm rejecting it, and I say, but Allah chose this guy for me. No, you choose him. But to relinquish my choice for his choice means I submit to what Allah wants for me rather than go for what I and my I want, right, to what Allah expects of me. So here the ayah خَلَقَ لَكُمْ. So I wanted just to emphasize the fact that your husband is the creation of Allah. Before he becomes your husband, you made your independent, clear choice. Do not deprive yourself of your reasoning, your aql, your logic, right, your rationale, and don't deprive yourself of the guidance of Allah and then say, I will replace this with istikhara. But finally, he became yours. Whether he turns to be a test or a gift or both, he is yours. So you need to work with what you got yourself in. Do your best. So don't choose a person who has a habit you can never live with. Most wise people say, I could never marry somebody who has an athletic foot. You know what an athletic foot is? It's a food that smells always bad. Right? Some people say, this is a definite no. So before he comes, check his foot. Okay? Smell it for me. Well, this is a joke, but for a more practical reason, Some of us would rationally say, I would never marry a person who smokes. Right? Could we also say, I would never somebody who doesn't pray? Right. I will never marry a woman who's not already in hijab. Right? Okay. Could we say, I would never marry a person who has never read the Quran in his life? Right?
How do you know if you have it on your indication? How do you know?
Is that right to say that?
Inquire as you would inquire about, okay, I would never marry somebody who has this quality, right? All of these things affect me personally, right? But when we search, instead of saying I wouldn't do this, I would say I'm looking for somebody who has taqwa. The first most important element. I want somebody who has taqwa of Allah. And then taqwa will carry under its umbrella all the good qualities you want in a husband or wife. Right? Of course, you can have your own things that you do not like and everything. That's also appropriate, no problem with that. But I'm saying, when we forward what Allah likes over what we like, Allah will bless us with what He likes and we like. So, what is the purpose here? لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, so that you may find and live in tranquility with them. So the purpose is that you live in peace. So you have a peaceful person, not an obnoxious person, right? Not someone who is always talking and then lamenting and repenting and regretting later. So that's why I say that in the period of engagement, never shorten this period before you examine. Oh, they're making a comma. Okay, I'm sorry, I took your question time as well in the discussion, but we're still open to take your questions via the email with Sister Iman, inshallah.